Leavenworth, Kansas was quiet under the heavy blanket of night. The tall walls of Fort Leavenworth casting long shadows across the grounds. Once a bastion of military discipline and duty, the fort had transformed over decades into the U.S. Army Combined Arms Center. But some things never changed. The history of Fort Leavenworth was written not only in military records, but in whispers and shadows that lingered long after the soldiers left. Visitors and residents often felt it before they saw it, a chill that swept the corridors of officers' houses without warning, footsteps echoing in empty halls, faces glimpsed in the flickering flames of fireplaces, staring back with an intensity that made the bravest heart falter. The story said these were the spirits of men and women long dead, perhaps the condemned executed at the United States disciplinary barracks, or soldiers buried in the National Cemetery just beyond the prison walls. They were not gone. They were merely waiting, watching, lingering in the spaces where life and death collided. At 624 Scott Avenue, the Chief of Staff's quarters stood as a stately reminder of the fort's history. By day, it was a place of protocol and ceremony. By night, it became a theater of the supernatural. Guests reported hearing sounds that seemed impossible. Faint clinking of china, soft laughter, the quiet murmur of conversation as though a tea party was taking place in a room empty to the living eye. Those who dared to linger often saw fleeting shadows at the edges of their vision, a flicker of movement near the heavy drapes or the long polished tables. Some claimed that silverware would move on its own, chairs slightly pulled out as though unseen guests had just risen. Many believed these were echoes of officers' families long gone, replaying their lives in a never-ending loop, trapped within the walls that had witnessed their joys and sorrows. A few streets away, at 632 Thomas Avenue, the old St. Ignatius Chapel had once stood, proud and solemn. In 1875, fire consumed it, taking the life of Father Fred, a devoted priest who had shepherded the parish through decades of spiritual care. Pieces of the chapel's stone and wood were later used to construct a home on the exact site. Visitors would later recount seeing Father Fred walking through the house, ascending and descending the stairs with his long robes flowing, eyes carrying a sadness that no mortal could console. In 1970, an instant photograph taken during a dinner party seemed to capture him clearly, standing among living guests, robed and solemn. Many who viewed the photo reported a chill, a sudden shiver that ran down their spine, and a whisper that seemed to echo from the past. Father Fred was not the only spirit bound to this place, but he was among the most persistent, appearing where he had lived and died, unable to leave the world that had claimed him so violently. The chapel's history seemed cursed. After St. Ignatius Chapel burned, another was built in its place, only to be destroyed by fire again on December 16, 2000. Each time the flames consumed stone and wood, the echoes of those who had died or been bound there seemed to grow louder. Witnesses described cold gusts of wind in rooms untouched by smoke, the smell of burnt incense lingering long after the fire had died, and faint cries of anguish that could not be traced to any human source. The fires seemed almost intentional, as if the spirits themselves demanded attention, refusing to be forgotten. Visitors spoke of shadows moving through the ruins, whispers on the wind, and figures glimpsed in the corners of their eyes,
shapes that vanished whenever approached, leaving only dread and the sense that someone or something was always watching.
One of the most infamous specters of Fort Leavenworth was General George Armstrong Custer. In 1867, he had been court-martialed at 1 Scott Avenue, a humiliation that still haunted the stone corridors of the building. Though reinstated and sent to battle, Custer met his end at the Little Big Horn. Yet, some claimed his spirit had not moved on. Those who worked in the building often reported glimpsing a tall, commanding figure in uniform, standing in hallways or pacing offices. Others claimed to hear the distinct sound of spurs against polished floors, the crisp orders of a soldier echoing through empty rooms. Many believed that the court-martial had bound his spirit to the fort, a restless presence tethered to the place where honor had been questioned and judgment had been passed. Fort Leavenworth was not merely haunted inside its buildings. Beyond the prison walls, in the surrounding woods and along Highway 73, strange occurrences were reported. Travelers would see figures standing silently among the trees, only to vanish when approached. Strange noises, footsteps, distant whispers, and the sounds of marching haunted the night. Those who wandered too far claimed the air grew heavy, shadows deepened unnaturally, and an oppressive feeling of being watched would not lift. The ghosts of the past were patient, persistent, and territorial. They were the echoes of soldiers, priests, and generals, men and women who had lived and died under the fort's shadow. To encounter them was to confront the weight of history itself, a reminder that some spirits never rest and some places never forget. Fort Leavenworth's walls, chapels, and quarters were more than history. They were a living testament to the restless, the damned, and the unseen. And for those who dared to enter after dark, the fort whispered a warning: "You are never truly alone here."